Okay, and Craig, I'm going to also need to ask you to turn on sharing so I can share my screen. There we go. Thank you. Share, make sure you guys can see it. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much. I want to say good afternoon and welcome to everyone. This being our first presentation in our webinar series focused on the Achievement of Excellence in Procurement Award. I am Carrie Mathis, and I proudly serve as the AEP officer for the National Procurement Institute. I'm so glad to be with you here today, and thank you so much for joining. Before we give the presentation started, I want to give a few housekeeping items for you. For those that are unable to join us today, this session is being recorded and will be made available on the NPI website for on-demand access. So if you have some colleagues perhaps that weren't able to join today, please let them know that they can access this in the future on the NPI website. I'd also like to ask all of our attendees to please ensure that you maintain your connection on mute throughout the duration of the presentation. That will ensure that those of us that are joining have the ability to hear uninterrupted. So again, if you could please place yourselves on mute, maintain your connections on mute for the duration of the presentation, that is much appreciated. I'd like to encourage you all to utilize the chat feature to pose any questions that you might have during the presentation, and I will do my best to get to as many as possible before the session ends. I'm so grateful that Axia Cooperative is sponsoring the AEP webinar series this year. This is the second year in a row that Axia Cooperative is sponsoring the series, so thank you so much for continuing to support the AEP Award program. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Ken Heckman from Axia Cooperative to share some details about Axia to kick off the session. Ken?
Hey, thanks, Carrie. I appreciate it. I just thank you to everyone for allowing us to be a part of this and to support you guys. We are proud supporters of NPI and the AEP Award, and in particular the pursuit, the goal and the pursuit of excellence in public procurement. We wish you all the best as you go through the application process and pursue this year's recognition and award, and I'm sure you all will do great through it. Just a few things about our cooperative. You can find us at axiacoop.org, and we are a nationwide.
Yeah, it's part of the culture. They put their candles to Virgin Mary, and then they put their candles to Oshun and all this stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Because
We can hear you. If you can please mute your lines, we can hear somebody speaking in the background.
That wasn't me. But anyhow, really just briefly, we are the only cooperative that exclusively works with AEP award winners as our lead agency. So we partner very closely with Achievement of Excellence in Procurement Awards to publicly solicit and award contracts that they publicly solicit and award contracts. And we use that true lead agency model to bring you value. So we love AEP award winners. We love NPI, and we appreciate the opportunity to support you guys. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Carrie, and let you get to the meat of the presentation. But thank you, guys.
All right, thank you so much, Ken, and thank you again for sponsoring the webinar series. Just before I get started with the presentation, if I can please ask everyone to please mute your lines so that we're not interrupted in hearing your conversations. Thank you very much. So the topic for today's webinar is going to be Rise to Excellence, AEP Award Tips, Tricks, and Winning Strategies. And again, my name is Carrie Mathis. I serve as the AEP officer, and I am happy to be with you today to share this presentation. Some of the learning objectives that we're going to go through really is to have an understanding of the AEP award criteria and that submittal process, identifying some tips and tricks to crafting a successful application. You're obviously going to expend of time and effort to be able to put together an application. And so I want to provide you some helpful guidance to hopefully increase your chances of being successful in obtaining the award. We're going to explore some best practices to align your organization with the award standards. and gain some insights on professional development and continuing improvement strategies. So before we get into the meat of it, I want to just recognize and acknowledge and thank all of our sponsor organizations that sponsor the AEP award for us. They are organizations across the United States and Canada, including CAPO, the CPPC, which is our Canadian partners, FAPO, GFOA, NAEP, of course, NPI, NIGP, as well as TEXPA. Thank you to all of those organizations for helping to spread the word and advocate for the AEP award. It is much appreciated, and we really are looking to grow this award program, so we appreciate all of the support from our sponsor organizations. So let's talk about the why. Why would you want to expend of your time and effort to put together an application to be receiving of the Achievement of Excellence in Procurement Award? What are some of the benefits? And so one of the main benefits that I would want to communicate is really it's a demonstration of meeting or exceeding a national standard for procurement excellence. And so every year when I present the award to the board, that's one of the main focuses of my commentary is that it's a demonstration that we're not just meeting but exceeding national standards. And I think when you think about the credibility and trust that we as procurement practitioners are trying to build with our boards, with our elected officials, commissioners, whatever your leading body is, really building that trust and credibility with your procurement operations is really at the top of what it is we're trying to achieve, right? And so this award will help be a demonstration of those efforts. It's also challenging us to continuously improve our own processes. If we're looking at those criteria, understanding what those standards are set at, we all have an opportunity to perhaps better our score year over year. And that means continuous improvement, looking from within and seeing what standards maybe we're not yet meeting. How might we implement some practices to help us be able to improve our procurement operations in accordance with these standards that have been set through the award criteria. It enhances stakeholder confidence. So when you're talking to your end user departments, when you're working with the business community, to know that they're working with an agency that has obtained the Achievement of Excellence in Procurement Award should give confidence, again, with those stakeholders that your procurement operation is sound and it is meeting or exceeding national standards. It's a good opportunity to increase your team's morale and pride. Those agencies that receive the award, they're very, very proud to have received it. Oftentimes I'll see them posting on social media, their team group presentations and celebrations. It really is a prideful moment because it doesn't take just one person to achieve this award. It takes an entire procurement organization working hand in hand, day after day, to implement sound practices that lead to being able to achieve this award. And so it very much is something that helps to build your team's morale. And they can be proud to know that they work for an organization that achieves this award. It might also give you a competitive advantage in terms of recruiting talent to your organization. If you have some vacancies within your operation, when you're posting your opportunities for jobs, I would encourage you, those of you that do obtain the award now or in the future, to promote the fact that you're an award-winning agency. That might be something that makes a difference between folks that might pursue your job opportunity over others. And we oftentimes hear from our peers on what it means to obtain that award, but let's take a minute to hear from a mayor, somebody that's an elected official. This is the mayor of the city of Richmond, and he is going to share with us his perspective as the leader of his organization on what obtaining this award means to his organization.
Hi, Carrie. Um, there isn't any sound on the video.
Okay. Sorry, I'll go ahead and skip it. I didn't realize I could hear it, so I didn't realize you guys can't hear it. So I'll go ahead and skip past that. My apologies. But essentially, what the mayor is conveying in his video is what it means to his agency to have a procurement operation that actually obtains the award. It means that they are practicing fiduciary responsibility, that they're expending of taxpayer money wisely, and that they have sound practices that can be relied upon by the leadership of the organization as well as the citizens of that particular agency. And so I think that's the important message to really take from this is that it means something to us as practitioners, but it also means something to the leaders of your organizations. And they're very proud to be part of an organization that receives this award. Let's talk about pursuing excellence and what it means when you're going to consider pursuing this award. First of all, membership has its benefits. We've heard that in some of the commercials in the past, but in this case, it really is true. If you are a member of the National Procurement Institute, you will receive a discount on the award application fee. You will also receive access to the prior year model submittals, which can be a really helpful resource in trying to craft narratives with regards to your own application. But also, if you're interested in some of those continuous improvement opportunities, I'll give you an example. Maybe you don't have a sustainability program and you're interested in implementing one. You could look at the model submittals regarding sustainability programs and learn from others how they have successfully implemented those programs. So it's great help for application building, but also for implementing change within your organization. In addition, membership will get you a discount to the annual conference registration. The conference this year will be held in October in sunny Orlando, Florida. Membership has a cost of $130, but it does garner you a $200 discount on the award application fee. So you do the math, that's a net $70 savings year over year just for having membership, in addition to the additional benefits that I had just advised. So to start the journey, I would encourage you to review the 2025 award application. It is currently published online. I provided the link here for you, but you can access it from the NPI webpage under the AEP award tab. This document will include all of the application instructions. It's going to include the submittal instructions, as well as you'll see the outline of all of the different award criteria that you may be eligible for and pursue. I would also encourage you to review the summary of changes. This summary of changes is an annual document that seeks to summarize all of the changes that have been made to any given criteria since the prior year's application. And so this here you can see on the screen, it's a one-page document, but it's detailing out any of the changes that have been made. They're all incorporated into that 2025 application. They're denoted in italics so that you can see those changes. But this is a quick summary of those, and it just provides that clarification so that you have a quick way to determine what changes have been made without trying to decipher that through an updated application that doesn't have that delineation. So I'd encourage you again before you get started to review both of those as you work through your planning process. I'd also encourage you to complete the self-scoring worksheet. This is located on the last page of the application document, and it details out all of the different criteria as well as the point allocations for each. You'll note that there's a total of 200 points that are eligible, and an agency must successfully demonstrate 100 points in order to receive the award. So this is a great worksheet for you to work through and just do kind of some pre-work to see where you'd be eligible to apply for the points before you even start with your application. Some key dates to remember. We did upload and release the application in January. The award portal opened February 17th. The applications are due to be fully submitted in the award portal by May 15th, 2025 at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then our evaluation team, we have an amazing evaluation team that comes together and puts in some really hard work to evaluate all of those applications. And we will be releasing the results of the evaluations no later than mid-March. So the first pro tip I'm going to give you today is don't wait, start today. The portal has been open now for just about a month. We still have about 2 months to go before it closes. But for those of you who are maybe first-time applicants, it will take you some time to build those narratives to demonstrate successfully each of those criteria that you're pursuing. And so I would encourage you to start now and give yourself plenty of time to be able to get through those builds so that you are not finding yourself up against the deadline to be able to submit. Make it a team project. It really should not be just one person putting the application together. That is a very large effort, even for those of us that submit the application annually. Make it a team project. That again builds in some of that team building opportunity for folks, and they'll get an opportunity to understand really the breadth of all of those criteria and how they may be able to be helpful for your continuous improvement initiatives within your own agency. If you'd like to request a mentor, somebody who has successfully obtained the award that might be able to give you some guidance and support throughout your process, please send an email to aep@npiconnection.org. I can share with you that we've had a really great response to this opportunity to request mentors. We've made connections with over a dozen agencies so far this year, which is really incredible. And I think it's a really great resource to get some guidance from those agencies that have successfully achieved it, to be able to give you some of their own tips and tricks and help guide you along the way. Access to the educational series is available online through the NPI website. I'm going to point you to that resource here in just a minute, but there are some educational offerings that are currently loaded, available for you on demand, as this particular webinar will be, as well as the future webinars that we have scheduled for this year.
Service, that's not the name of a party.
Again, if you can please mute your line, we can hear some speaking in the background. Thank you so much for muting. One of the resources that I just referred to was the educational series. And so you can access that particular resource by going on the NPI website, hovering over that AEP award tab, and when the drop-down appears, you can select educational series. And there you'll find some of the past AEP webinars specific to certain criteria. This particular session will be loaded on there as well in case you want to review or refresh anything. But this is really a great resource for you to look at some of those educational trainings focused in on some of those specific criteria that you might be looking to pursue. Let's talk a little bit about the application preparation. For those of you who have pursued the award in the past, whether you have been successful or you have not been successful, you are encouraged to access your scorecard from the prior year's application cycle so that you can access the scorecard and see any comments that the AEP evaluation team had submitted to you. This is an example of last year's scorecard. I will share with you that because we have transitioned to a new award platform this year, this scorecard is going to look a little bit different going forward just because we've changed platforms, but you get the feel for this, right? It gives you the breakdown of all of the different criteria. It identifies which ones you had submitted for, and if you received those points, and any specific comments that the evaluation team wanted you to see. So a good practice is always to pull that up from the last year. My team always takes a look at it to see if there were any comments, maybe to give some additional guidance on things that we might want to enhance for our submittal next year to make sure that we're receiving of those points. So I'd encourage everybody to take a look at that before you initiate your application this year. This is an example of one of the actual criteria within the application. And for practitioners, I will liken this to an RFP process, whereby the RFP details out specific criteria documentation to be submitted in the proposal to support a firm's qualifications. So too does this particular award application. You can see where the arrow is pointing. For this particular criteria 14, it is identifying 3 different submittal requirements that have to be included in your documentation to support your eligibility for points under this particular criteria. So I gave this specific example because you'll note under the 3rd bullet for the submission, it says submit documents published or posted after January 1st, 2024. And you'll note that that date is italicized. It's italicized because it changed. And some dates within the application will change year over year. They're going to be updated. And so I would encourage you to make sure that you're focusing in to ensure that your submittal documents adhere to the timeframes prescribed in there. We've had some applicants in the past, unfortunately, who did not receive points because some of their submittal documents were outside of the prescribed time frame. So please make sure that you are hitting on each of those submittal requirements. If you were to submit for two of these three submittal requirements, but not the third one, you likely would not receive points because you have to successfully demonstrate all of the submittal requirements. In this particular example, criteria 15, there are some sub-criteria. So you'll note where the arrow is pointing that agencies, in this case for criteria 15, could receive points for either criteria A and or criteria B, right? And so make sure that for several of the criteria that have sub-criteria that you're focusing in on those and applying for any and all that apply to you and not just one if it identifies that you could apply for both. In thinking through building your narratives, my best recommendation for you is to be succinct. Don't add additional information that is not specifically related to the submittal requirements. The AEP evaluation team has a lot of applications that they will be reviewing on an annual cycle. And so for giving them some assistance in being able to efficiently review these applications, adding in additional information that is not germane to the actual criteria submittal will just cause them to have to read more documentation than is necessary. So I would encourage you to be succinct. Please do make sure that you're addressing all of the submittal requirements that are denoted by those bullet points, but it's not necessary to add particular information that's not required. And I recommend, again, reviewing those model submittals as a guide for any given criteria so you can see how some of your peers have successfully demonstrated those criteria in a succinct way that does still demonstrate all of the submittal requirements. Clear and concise writing. If you want to incorporate in some charts, graphs, or tables, please do so, provided that they're, again, relevant to the particular criteria that you're applying for. Use specific examples to demonstrate your compliance with these particular criterias. Many of the requirements require you to provide links or screenshots or some data. It also might ask you to highlight some specific verbiage within your ordinances. And so please make sure that you're following all of the submittal instructions for any given criteria to ensure that you are optimizing your opportunity to achieve those points for any given criteria. For this particular criteria number 2, again, just kind of pointing out that there's 2 places here where we're prescribing time frames. And so the first arrow points to the manual that must be electronically posted and must have been updated within the last 5 years, right? So understand and adhere to the time frames prescribed. If for some reason an applicant were to upload a document for this criteria, but it hasn't been updated since 2017, that would not satisfy this requirement and they would not receive the points. You'll also note that under bullet 2, it again provides a date that says the manual, you must be able to demonstrate that the manual was updated after January 1st, 2020. So that's again, that 5-year time frame. So please make sure that you are adhering to those. Points will not be granted if the documentation is outside of that prescribed time frame. And then regarding this criteria, I'm going to show you my prior submittal to get a feel for how the narrative is structured to sufficiently address the criteria requirements of providing the link or screenshot to the web page, demonstrating that it was available to my customers, and demonstrating that it was updated after January 1st, 2020. So this is an actual example of my past submittal for criteria 2. You can see that it includes a website link. Please make sure that all your hyperlinks work. The evaluators do check those. Be mindful if you're in the process of updating some of your web links that they still work by the time you upload the submittal. We're currently in the process of updating our manual, and so we're mindful to not execute on that update until after the award evaluations take place so that we don't have a link that breaks or perhaps the information contained in my application differs than what they might see on the website. This narrative also demonstrates that it was last revised in September 2022. So again, it adheres to that 5-year time frame. It provides narrative to demonstrate that my internal customers can access it and how they can access it. And it also provides for a narrative addressing the table of contents to demonstrate the comprehensive nature of the manual. So again, this is a succinct way to formulate the narrative addressing each of those submittal bullet points that you saw on the previous slide. And then I'm going to take you through the screenshots. So this is, again, is part of my criteria to submittal. It's just multiple pages. The narrative was the first part. The second part is my screenshots to demonstrate navigating to get access to the procurement manual. Again, I always double check all of my links to make sure that they work. And the right side of the screen is how my internal customers can access through the intranet. And it successfully demonstrates where the policy resides. And again, it cross-references to the date of revision. So this is a QA/QC thing, right? Like we wouldn't want you in your narrative to say that your manual has been updated in 2024, but when we get to your screenshots, it's showing that it was updated in 2022. So be mindful year over year when you're updating your submittal to make sure that all of your dates are consistent. Because if they're not consistent, that might lead you to not receiving the points if one part of your documentation shows that it's outside of the prescribed time frame. Last but not least, I included a copy of the cover of my manual. Again, I'm showing that it was updated in September of 2022, and I'm also providing a capture of what my table of contents of the manual is to demonstrate that comprehensiveness of the particular manual. And so that is it for that particular criteria. Again, it succinctly gives the narrative to support those submittal, and I'm only including the submittal requirements that were contained within the application. A lot of times you'll see instruction that says, do not upload your whole manual. Please don't upload your whole manual. That's too much for our evaluators to have to sift through. So we want you to just give direct citations to what the submittal requirements are requesting to be included. I'm going to give you another pro tip. This is something that I was toying with last summer, but let's not sleep on AI. AI could be a tool that might be helpful for those of you that are crafting your narrative and want to cross-check it. So a prompt that I've used in the past is I'll create my narrative, I'll upload it into something like ChatGPT, and my prompt will be compare the attached award criteria submittal against the criteria requirements below and identify if any deficiencies are in the submittal. Now I'm going to give you a disclaimer. It's written on the bottom of this screen, and we all know when it comes to AI, we have to be careful. And so while AI does strive for accuracy, it's not foolproof and may occasionally produce errors or require human judgment for verification. So I wouldn't rely on this tool to be the final QA/QC for identifying any deficiencies in a narrative, but I would say that it could potentially be a helpful resource for you to do that comparison to the submittal requirement against your narrative and just see if it captures anything that you might want to make sure that you're reformatting. Before we get into the submittal portal, to the application portal, this is a new feature that's been added to the NPI website, is some application resources. And so again, if you hover over the AEP award header, there's a pop-out that's going to pop out to the right that has applicant resources. And if you access that pop-out, this is the screen that's displayed. And you'll see that we've created a video tutorial for how to create your application in the new platform. How to create your login. There's several guides that are included on here. Some guidance resource documents, how to access the model submittals, how to request a mentor. These are all great resources for folks as they're navigating through the application process or just your whole pursuit journey to achieve the AEP award. This is a new page that's available online, and I encourage you all to access those resources and take a look at those videos if you are interested in learning how to navigate that new portal. And just as a teaser, I encourage you all to register if you haven't already. Next Thursday on March 19th, maybe that's Wednesday, March 19th. That will be Wednesday. At 1 p.m., we have another webinar in this series that is scheduled, and I'm going to take you through a tutorial of the actual award platform to be able to log in and navigate how to upload submittal documents. So if you haven't yet registered for that, again, it's free. I encourage you to do so. But if you want to have a sneak peek in advance, this video tutorial will give you a walkthrough of how to navigate that application portal. When you're ready to start your application process, once you log into the portal, you would just click here to begin a new submission. And it's going to take you into a page that looks something like this. Now I've actually advanced it to criteria number 1. You can see kind of at the top header, but there is a screen directly before that that's entitled applicant information. The applicant information tab is your individual information for your entity. We want you to identify the chief procurement officer. We want you to identify the mailing address where we can mail your trophy should you be successful in your pursuit of the award. We want you to identify the leader in your organization who you would like to be informed of your success in obtaining the AEP award. And so that first tab really is requiring you to put in all of that pertinent detail to your agency. It is required for you to complete all of those fields in order to finally submit your application. You'll find as you navigate through the application portal that a lot of these require mandatory fields to be entered before you can finally submit your application. And that's just to make sure that we receive all of the information necessary to consider your award. One thing to keep in mind is if you do not intend to submit for a criteria, please indicate by selecting no. Please do not say yes and upload a document that indicates you're not submitting for this criteria. That has happened in the past. And if you do that, then it's going to, again, take time for our evaluation team members to open up a document only to find that you weren't interested in pursuing this particular criteria. So please, if you can help support our AEP evaluation team, they would very much appreciate it if you are not intending to pursue any given criteria to please just indicate by saying no. For any given criteria in here, you will be required to make a selection of yes or no. These are mandatory fields, and you won't be able to finalize your application until you make a selection of yes or no. If you are interested in applying for a particular criteria, like in this case, criteria 1, you would say do you wish to submit a response? You would say yes. There's a prompt down below to choose a file to upload. Once you upload your file in a PDF format, and again, there's a maximum file size of 20 megabytes, and it must be a PDF. You would then say save and next, and it would take you to the next criteria. Once you go through all of the criteria for which you intend to apply for, and even those that you don't, please indicate by saying no. The final screen that you'll get to before you get to payment is basically a response total screen. And so for any given criteria that you indicated yes and uploaded something, this is going to aggregate in the eligible points that you are applying for. So again, you can see criteria by criteria which you have applied for, and this is a good place to stop and check and say, is there something here that I intended to apply for that I inadvertently said no? You can always go back and you can upload that information before finalizing. Once you finalize and pay for your application, you will not be able to go back. So it's really important to make sure and double check that you have submitted for all the criteria that you intend to. And I would also say, check the total points, because again, you must successfully demonstrate 100 points to achieve the award. And so I always encourage folks, give yourself a buffer to the extent that you can, because there is time, your time in effort in putting this submittal together. There's also a cost, right? And so there's a funding element to this. And so we wouldn't want you to have expended of your time and money to apply for something only to find that perhaps the AEP evaluation team felt like you did not successfully demonstrate a particular criteria and it dropped you below 100 points. So I always like to encourage people, give yourself maybe a 10 point buffer, at least the first year, just to make sure. And if you're doing your pre-work and you're not quite at 100 points, that's okay. This is an opportunity to take a look at where you might be able to make some enhancements to your procurement operation to be eligible next year. So even if you don't intend to pursue it this year, this is great homework for you to do your due diligence and kind of work through implementing some continuous improvement initiatives this year to be eligible for next year. Before you are going to finalize your application with your payment, I want to encourage you to have a separate set of eyes looking at this particular application. Regardless of the number of years that we have obtained this award, this is an action that we do year over year. Because we want to make sure we have different sets of eyes looking at this. They're comparing the submittal requirements against our narratives and our screenshots to just do some quality control and make sure we didn't miss something. For those of us that are close to the application process, it's always helpful to have a separate set of eyes taking a look at all of those details to make sure that we haven't missed something. So engage a reviewer who maybe wasn't involved in preparing the application, so that they can take a look at it for clarity and completeness. Maybe they can catch some typos, maybe they can catch some inconsistencies or an omission of a submittal component that perhaps was overlooked. And we want to just make sure that it makes sense, that it is concise, that it is succinct, that it does not have additional information that's not necessary for the evaluators to consider. And I know that's a tough balance because you want to make sure you're including all of the information that you think is relevant. I'll give you an example. Sometimes people will include information about their population and the community they serve, but that's not information that's specifically tied to any given criteria. So it's really not necessary to include information about those types of things. And so I would encourage you to build in enough time, right? The applications are due in the portal by May 15th. At 5 p.m. Central Standard Time again. Give yourself enough time, build in some time in the schedule to have your application completed in terms of the creation of the narratives and uploads, and then allow time for that reviewer who was not part of the development of the application sufficient time to go in and look at each of those criteria that you're applying for, and make sure that they feel that it is succinct and does not have any deficiencies that might cause you to not be considered for points. Our goal hopefully is to make sure that you're all as successful as possible in this endeavor. This is the only award nationally that is a demonstration of procurement excellence. And so across the United States and Canada, we want you all to be successful in this endeavor. And so all of these tips are really intended to kind of help support your efforts to pursue the award. And when you are successful, not if, but when, I want to encourage you all to celebrate. Celebrate any means possible. That could be like Mojave County did. They issued a press release. We have Spring Independent School District who put together a news article, right, that got disseminated. Or you could give a presentation to your board and present that formally to them and make sure that they're aware of your successes. And I would say this is a really important factor when you're talking about conveying the trust and credibility between your procurement operation and your leadership team. There are often times that procurement needs to come to the elected officials to make an ask. If it is getting consideration to increase your bid thresholds, getting consideration to increase your change order parameters or your board approval thresholds, whatever those are. The most successful opportunities are those where there has been trust and credibility built between your procurement operation and your board, your elected officials, your council, commission, whatever you refer to them as. Any opportunity to get in front of them and demonstrate your excellence as a procurement operation is only going to reap benefits when you make those asks of them to get consideration for modernization of thresholds and things of that nature. So celebrate with your team, have lunches, have cakes, whatever you do, celebrate, take pictures, communicate that out, engage with your communications folks to do news articles, to do press releases, and take any and every opportunity that you possibly can to get in front of your leadership team to let them know know that you have successfully demonstrated that you are meeting and exceeding national standards and what that means for the agency and the constituents that you serve. And with that, I am going to open it up for questions. So I'm going to take a look at the chat to see if we have any questions that I might be able to answer. We have a few more minutes. I do see a question of getting a copy of the PowerPoint presentation. Yes, we will make that available to you probably on that resource page so that you have access to that. But again, this whole recorded session is going to be available on the NPI website for you to have as well. Let me look and see. Maria had asked the question if we're releasing the award winners in mid-March or mid-August. The award winners will be identified by mid-August. Again, the application deadline is May 15th. And so then our AEP evaluation team will start engaging in doing the evaluations of those awards, of those applications. We literally get hundreds of applications. And so we have an amazing team of AEP evaluators that come together and give of their time to sift through those applications, again, comparing it to the application requirements and evaluating those. Generally, it takes about 6 weeks on average to get through all of the award evaluations and reconcile those. And so really it depends on the number of applications we receive. If we receive a higher number, then that time frame may expand depending, but we are striving to have the folks identified as award winners by mid-August. Any other questions? Can you get a partial score or is it all or nothing? Thank you, Sharice, for that question. It is all or nothing. Some criteria are eligible for 5 points. Other criteria are eligible for 10 points. But if you do not successfully demonstrate all of the submittal requirements, you will receive 0 points. There is no opportunity for partial points for any given criteria. How can I get a copy of last year's scorecard for my agency? The person who submitted last year has retired. So within the AEP application header where it said AEP award on the NPI website, if you hover over AEP award, the drop down will come over and there's a option for historical documents. And if you access that historical documents option, you'll be able to access the scorecard for last year. There should be a prompt there. I believe it's an orange button that will get you access to the scorecard. If for any reason you have any challenges accessing that, you can please send an email to me at aep@npiconnection.org, and I will try to help navigate to get you access to that document. Okay, it says, I sent a question on criteria 9 okay, so I will take a look at that question on criteria 9 separately and answer to you via email. Are there any other general questions that anybody has with regards to resources, how to access the platform, general questions about the application or the summary of changes? Any other things I can help with at this point? Okay, I don't see any other questions. So I am going to thank you all for attending today. Again, I want to give a special thanks to Axia Cooperative for sponsoring our AEP webinar series again this year. And if you have not done so, I encourage you to register for the next webinar, which is scheduled for March 19th at 1:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the focus of that webinar will be an AEP award platform tutorial. So I'm going to take you through navigating how to access it, how to start uploading your submittal documents. And with that, I hope that you all have a great afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I look forward to seeing you all next week. Have a good day.
Thank you,
Carrie.